What's up, guys? I'm here with Devin. He's done 560,000 in sales in a 12-month period, all used books, and now he's just getting back into the business. That was back in 2018. Now he's getting back into it. He's at 8,000 in sales this month. I didn't know this until just now. I met him years ago at McKay's used bookstore when I first started selling books. And he remembered me, and I reached out to him on Facebook. Didn't realize it was him. So we've actually met in person before. And so we met at McKay's used bookstore. So welcome to the Amazon Savages podcast.
Welcome to the Amazon Savages podcast. Hear the stories of Amazon sellers crushing it in the game and keep up with the latest strategies that are working. Sit back, relax, and remember, if you truly try and work really hard, you will make a ridiculous amount of money selling on Amazon.
You know what's funny? I do remember that. And I remember thinking, I think around that time, was that 2019?
It was probably 2019. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember thinking that's when I started getting recognized because I went on Steve Rakin's YouTube channel and Reezy Resells. And I started getting recognized in like libraries and stuff. And that was right around the time where some people knew me and some people didn't. And so, but I do remember that because I remember you doing a lot more than me. I remember thinking like, this guy knows his stuff. Like I could tell that you had the attitude of like, I've been in the business. I've done this. And I did 80,000 in 2018and you did 560,000.
I mean, yeah, I've been doing it for a few years though. I mean, you've surpassed me now. So that is, that's how it goes when you stay in it and you stay working,
100%. Yeah. I put a ton of work in the business. Now I do a lot of wholesale and other products, and restricted inventory is a big part of my business now.
Wanted to interject this podcast real quick to tell you that Bookselling Bootcamp's going down. This is a bootcamp designed to help you build your book business. And we have tons and tons of speakers selling thousands a month in books, sharing their strategies on how you can build your business and how they've built their businesses. So if you're interested in hearing Devin share his strategies, and also we'll be doing a live Q&A at the end, so you'll be able to interact with Devin live, then go ahead and save your seat below. It's going down Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And if you're watching this afterwards, don't worry, there'll be a replay. But go ahead and save your seat for Saturday, 6 p.m. Bookselling Bootcamp.
Kind of walk us through, I guess you're an OG. When did you actually start selling?
Man, I was in college. I was in school for chemical engineering, and I was having like a 2-hour commute just one way, trying to get to school every day because I've got a son too, and now I have a daughter. But I was trying to be a dad and go to school. There was no way I could work a normal job. So I was like, I started watching some YouTube guys like killing it in resales. When I first started, I sold like t-shirts and hats and
what year was this?
This was like 2014, 2015.
Wow. So who was on YouTube at the time?
Oh man. Let's see.
Was it Reezy still?
What's that?
Was it Reezy Resells? Was he on YouTube at the time?
I'm not sure when I saw him. The guy I really remember watching, his name was Cody Hawk.
Okay.
And he got into like private label and stuff, back when that was like a cash cow. I know it's gotten a little more difficult, but I mean, there's opportunities everywhere. There really are. But yeah, I just started getting into books, and I was like, wow, there's actually a lot of books out there. And, there weren't that many FBA sellers at the time. You could sell books at like $35. Merchants would be at like $8 and just crush it. So had to stop going to school because that commute, 4 hours driving, taking classes like chemical engineering stuff, like, I could not finish out. I was in my junior year and I was just like, wow, this is horrible. It totally crushed me to have to stop. But, I decided to go full-time in books and see what I could do with it.
And so that's back in 2014, 2015. So when do you decide to go full-time books?
Full-time books was probably 2016. Like I said, I messed around with like all kind of doodads, and I was selling like TV remote controls, like, and stuff that I would just find at thrift stores. Like I was real scraping the bottom of the barrel to get some cash flow. But yeah, I started books really big time in 2016, or big time. I thought it was cool that I was selling thousands of dollars of books every month. But 2017, 2018 is when I got some warehouse space. And, I bought out some bookstores that were closing. McKay's, I found out about McKay's, and that was that was an amazing store. Any bookstores in your area are just people they miss. They have stuff on the shelves that they don't know the value of it.
Yeah.
So,
so you bought some bookstores. How much did you pay for all the books?
Man, it was like, okay, so I got this one. It was around like Lipscomb University, like roughly that is in Nashville.
There's actually a profile picture of me on YouTube. It's the same one. It was me like 3 or 4 years ago, and we were in Lipscomb. It was either Lipscomb or Trevecca. We went to one of those schools, and my friend brought his camera and just took a picture of me in their library with all the books around me. You guys can see it on YouTube right now. It's like, if you click on my YouTube profile, it's like me in the background with all the books. So
yeah, that's awesome, man. But yeah, it was right around that area, and they closed. They had like 12,000 books that they were just like getting rid of. I paid $1,000 for them, but the real part was the labor, right? Like, I know.
What kind of books were these? Textbooks?
These were all over the place, like weird, obscure little pamphlets on like, Cumberland Valley, foraging and stuff that you get like $50 for. It looks like trash. And then some of them were like, signed books, like by some pretty famous authors and, classic stuff that, go for a couple $100s on eBay. When you're first starting out, eBay can really help you, monetize stuff that Amazon doesn't really have a market for. But yeah, it was $1,000 for all the books, but the labor, it was like, I don't know, like 8 pallets. Okay. Like, like stacked as, 6 feet in the air, and just renting the truck with a lift gate and like packing all that. That was the real trouble with that one. But found amazing stuff in it. It was at least 10x my money just in what I've pulled out, and then I also got $5,000 in trade credit at McKay or something when taking all this stuff there.
What's your strategy since you're in OG? What was I don't know if did you ever hear my story about McKay's, what I was doing?
You used to buy bulk, right? And like take
dude, I went pretty crazy with it. Like, so I moved next to McKay's just so I could go in there every day. So my first apartment ever was Lexington Apartments, which was like probably like 2 or 3 football fields away from McKay's. Then there was Store Place in between McKay's and my apartment. Remember that there's a storage unit there. And I would just load the storage unit up with tons of books. And then I got to the point where McKay's cut me off I'm sure you got to this point too, where like, you like bring enough that they can't bring any more for the day. And then you fill up the totes they have. And so I did the 2 totes. I did the 3 boxes. They processed in 45 minutes. I think it was 5 red boxes or something at the time, where they would do that in the next 24 hours. Yep. And I just maxed it out. And so then I started paying people in my neighborhood, or in my mom's neighborhood. I hired a bunch of people I would basically pay them 30 cents on the dollar for trade credit that they brought from my books. So they would go to my storage unit. We hid a key underneath the rock. They would get the key, open up the storage unit. They would take 4 or 5 boxes, go to McKay's. They'd get $100. I pay them $30. And then I'd use $100 in trade credit to buy more books. And so that was my crazy hustle for a while. I would get rider trucks and I would park them outside McKay's, and I would just like load in, and people would just look at me like I was crazy.
That's hilarious. I probably saw that at one point and didn't even realize it was you doing it.
That security guard there at McKay's here in Nashville, he thinks I'm fucking crazy, man. Like, he always saw me doing the craziest shit. Like he still sees me to this day, and he's like, he just definitely thinks there's something wrong with me.
Well, not everybody understands what the business is like. But yeah, like strategies, if you've got a used bookstore that buys on trade credit in your area, I am in that store so much because there's just gold in there. Yeah. I know what books they buy for $5, and, I'll get that book for 50 cents and I'll just bring them the cream of the crop. I've also, bought out like, oh wait, what's up?
Have you ever considered, okay, so online arbitrage, book online arbitrage, right?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Have you ever considered, I never done this, but I wanted to. Have you ever considered buying a book on Amazon and then selling it back to McKay's?
I mean, with the the minimum
Like I've
prices.
scanned books, you know, in McKay's, like sometimes they have like a $48 book on the shelf and you scan it and it's like $2 merchant fulfilled on Amazon. I've
Yeah.
thought, what happens if you purchase that? Will they pay you like 18 bucks for it?
Yeah. In trade credit, I think they do like 50%, whatever they throw on the sticker, you know? So,
Dude,
I mean,
I
that
think,
opportunity's there. They, you know,
dude, yeah, like so screw selling on Amazon. Just like I literally think somebody could do this, but they might find out. But I think it would work for a while where you just all you're looking at is the price. So the most expensive books, so any books over $50, they're like less than 20 on Amazon. Just buy a bunch, take them to McKay's, boom, instant profit. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you could. You'd struggle to find, I think, enough to do that in volume.
Probably, yeah. But I just remember there was a couple
stuff,
times where that price on MK's was really high, and I was like, "This is only $2 MF." You know,
I know it's crazy. And you know that in-store book market is just so much different than the online book market. Like they can get $50 for some of those books because they look cool.
Yeah.
And you know, in search results, they don't come up at all.
Yeah.
So,
and they have proprietary software that, you know, tells them what they've sold the book for in the past. So they could give a rat's ass what it sells for on Amazon. They're like, we know that we've sold this 20 times over the last 2 years at $50. So we're going to do it again, you know?
Yep. You know, one other strategy, if you've got something like that, like buy the leftovers from library sales. Sometimes they will just give them to you for free, or you pay like $1 a box or $2 a box. And I guarantee you'll find stuff to sell because people miss stuff all the time. I miss stuff. If somebody comes right behind me, like I might miss stuff. So you're going to make money that way. And then if you can trade in the stuff in good condition to a store like McKay's, I mean, you're paying $100 for 100 boxes, $1,500 in store credit plus anything you can sell. Like that's a lot of money there. So that's helpful. That's what I used to do. But man, I'm getting old, you know, like I can't do that. I'm done with, you know, tossing around 200 boxes of books all the time.
Did you ever like notice that libraries and colleges are closing down and like take advantage of that?
Definitely, like the bookstores, like I said, right? Like I've you know, I never got a college like I know you did with Caleb at one point.
Hiwassee, which is in Tennessee. And dude, it was like the worst. Caleb kind of screwed me on that deal because my goal was to do 500,000 that year in sales. I didn't do it. I did 350,000, but I was like, Caleb, I want to sell these on my account. And he was like, sure, we can. But he was like, I'm getting 70% of the profit and you get 30%. And so, but honestly, like it was worth it because I got to hang out with Caleb for the weekend. And so I got to Hiwassee College with him. He paid for the Airbnb and everything too. So it was worth it. But dude, we got a dumpster. We put it outside the school and the boxes of books that we had to bring out were extra large boxes filled with library books and encyclopedias and these heavy, heavy books. They were 130, 140 pound boxes, not heavy duty boxes, just extra large boxes. Like they might've been large boxes, but I weighed one. It was 130 pounds and we were taking all of them, putting them in a dumpster. I think the recycler ended up paying us like $4,000 for the books. So that was good. But
that's good.
Yeah, dude, I did a lot of that stuff. In 2019, I didn't post a lot on social media because I didn't want anyone to know about it. But I was traveling all over the country. I went to Columbia, South Carolina. I went to Washington, D.C. I flew to Pensacola. There was a college that closed down there. I was in St. Petersburg, Florida, and I drove 16 hours nonstop to Waco, Texas. Slept on the floor in this. I don't even know what it was, but there was it was like a building, but like somehow Better World Books boxes were in it. So like somebody already pulled the books from the location and put them in this.
Wow.
Like, it wasn't a warehouse. It was like a house. It was like an apartment. I slept on the floor in there because I was too cheap to buy a hotel. And somebody paid me $2,000 to do that trip for them. I wasn't even my books, and the books sucked. Wow. I scanned every single book and we probably got like a handful, but, this piece of shit guy, he was the one, he was like lying. This is crazy, man. I've never said this on YouTube before, but he was like basically lying to these colleges that he was looking to purchase the land from them, like the property. And so he would have me, like I flew to Pensacola and he had me go. And like 10 minutes before I go in, I'm there thinking like he's already solidified the deal for the books. He hadn't. So I'm in Pensacola. the deal isn't solidified. And he's like, hey, look, he's like, they think you're going to buy the property. Just go inside, send me pictures of the library and pretend like you're interested in all the electrical equipment and like the different specs and shit. And so I fucking go along with it because I'm a young kid. I don't know any better. I'm in Pensacola. He's got me by the balls. I'm like, all right. So I go in this college and I see the library and I pull my phone out and take a few pictures because that's really what I'm there for. And then I have to fake like I'm interested in all the closet, like electrical equipment. And so I'm taking fake pictures, sending it to him. And I don't even know if I think we did get the deal. I don't know. But dude, 2019 was a crazy year. And that opportunity still exists for anyone out there. If you go on Google and put on Google alerts for colleges closing or libraries closing, there's a couple dozen that close down every year. And so that's a really good opportunity for people. You know, you can write letters to the college, you can call them, contact the president. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but there's a lot of money in it too.
Yep. Being proactive and personable has gotten me so many connections. There was this other bookseller in the like Franklin area. Okay. It was like, he was a mile away from my warehouse. He got evicted and they threw, I don't know, 30,000 books out into the parking lot. And they were like, anybody can come take them because we're going to have to get a dump truck in here tomorrow to haul them away. And I spent all night with my wife with my truck lights on. Okay. Like somebody called me and told me this had happened. And I took maybe like 10 truckloads. And, you know, I've just got like a Dodge Ram truck, but you know, just back and forth to my warehouse. We got like 3,000 or 4,000 books and I was selling them for years. Like there were duplicates, but they were awesome. It was crazy.
What's your philosophy with triggers and like what scouting app are you using?
Okay. So I'm old school. I just never switched to Scout IQ. So I still have Scoutly. It's very similar to Scout IQ. You know, I shop at different areas with different prices. I don't worry about triggers so much as what am I paying for the book? And I look at the profit, right? And just do the math in my head because, you know, fees are different.
So are you keeping like the default triggers in? Or are you changing them?
I haven't made any changes to my triggers. I don't even know what they are. I genuinely don't pay attention to them.
I think it's better to undershoot than overshoot. So just keep like the default triggers are pretty liberal. And so you'll get notified more often than not. What you don't want to do, in my opinion, is set them so high that you just never get notified because then you're missing a lot. So it's better to get false positives than false negatives because false negatives you don't even know about. False positives, you scan it and you're like, oh, this is not worth it, but it says it is, versus you scanning a book that is worth it and could have made you profit, but you never get notified. So
yeah, I've got I just have like a scanner Velcroed to my phone. So I can just like look and scan at the same time. The triggers are so helpful for somebody that's starting out. I've just done this for so many years. I don't need the triggers anymore. I can look at it, look at the rank, look at the e-score, all that stuff, and just make a call like that. So Keepa is great too, you know, for that tough to find stuff. But I mean, there's so many strategies and there's so many books out there. You know, I've just gotten back into this, you know, full time, and Nashville is a pretty saturated market. Like there's a lot of booksellers here. Yeah. When I go to McKay's, there are 3 to 5 people in there at all times of the day, And, you know, those new carts come out and they just descend on the shelves like a pack of animals. And
especially the textbooks. And there's like all those there's like a squad of old men here. I don't know if they're still there or not, but there's a squad of old men and they would just like hang out and just wait for those biology books to come out.
Yeah, it is rare that you just walk in there and come across brand new textbooks that nobody has checked already.
And they got their PDA scanners. They ain't even using phones.
I know the old like socket scanner. Like, but you know, starting back out the second time has been really interesting in terms of figuring out cash flow, right? It's like how, you know, I started with just, I don't know, like $1,000. I was like, hey, okay, I'm just going to start buying like crazy. And like, how fast can I roll this? And monetizing like everything that you can. Like, you know, some stuff goes to buyback companies, you know, eBay. Like I sell over $100 worth of stuff on eBay all the time. There's books like, especially Bibles, some of the most expensive things I've ever sold, like $700 Bibles on eBay. There's no listing on Amazon. So if you don't know what the value of that item is, you're going to leave. That's so much money. I think I paid $20.
Are you just looking at like eBay sold items? Are you filtering by sold items?
Yeah. And, if you find something nice like that, like these were special leather, special edition Bibles called Nelson Signature Series. And I think they had donated like a bunch of sample copies because Thomas Nelson, the publisher, is here. They live in that. They're in Nashville, and they donated like all these Bibles. I bought like 8 of them for $20 each, and they were all worth like $200 to $800. And they don't scan on Amazon, so that's quite a big profit that you just leave if you're not looking for that stuff. But Amazon's where the money is. When I did the 560,000 in sales, like 12% of that was eBay, and the rest was Amazon. You just cannot compete with how many items you could get listed as quickly as you can, like Amazon, and just ship them away, and done with it. I'm not going to pack 100 books a day to ship out. I'm not going to do merchant. That's not my game.
Yeah. What do you do for like tracking your profit and stuff?
So I haven't worried about it recently. I've been using GoToLister. Okay. I just started a trial on that. And looking at the
OG using my software. That's cool.
No, I really like it. The queuing system and everything. Yeah. With the way Amazon's workflow has just kind of changed over the years, like it works really well for me because you want to get eyes on each book, so that you're not just, letting a repricer set your prices. Like it's a way to really mess stuff up. Yeah.
Are you taking advantage of the little, cause dude, I used to do this at McKay's. I would go to McKay's and I would have 2 boxes. So I'd have one box for no FBA books. So if I scan a book and let's say it was like $15 was the buy box price, but I also saw there was no FBA offers and it was like maybe a $5 book at McKay's. I'm like, I can pay $5 for this, but I'm only going to make like $2 profit if I sell it MF or if I match the current buy box price. But instead, what I would do is I would know I could probably sell this for like $25 because there's no FBA. And so I would take the book and I would put it in a no FBA box. But then I would forget a lot of times. I would just list it and then I'd be like, fuck, I sold it at $15, which was the buy box price. And so that's why I made GoToLister notify you. It turns purple when you have a book that does have no FBA offers. So you can go in and it automatically raises the price 20% if you're using smart pricing, but you probably should raise it more.
I mean, depending on the book and depending on the rank, like there are some little textbooks, like They Say, I Say. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
They're like,
that's a restricted one.
Yeah.
You can probably sell textbooks, can't you?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
I don't get many restrictions, except
dude, you're like the first person on the podcast ever who has been able to sell textbooks. That's so cool.
You got to be careful with the fakes though. Like I even accidentally will buy it in the store because I'm not paying that much attention, and I'll get home and I'll be like, these pictures look really pixelated and crappy. I bet this is fake. And
did you hear what happened to me this summer with my accounts and everything?
And I did. That is,
dude. Yeah.
So that has caused you. I just can't even imagine.
Dude, it goes way back, but I got my first. I mean, honestly, it was my fault because I got my first account shut down in 2019 and I wasn't really public about it. I just told my customers at restricted inventory. So everybody was sending me, here's a restricted book right here. Everybody was sending me their restricted books in 2019 and I was selling them on my personal account. Then I got test bought by a law firm that sees if they're legit. The law firm said they weren't. So they bought 3 copies, said they're all fake, shut my account down 6 weeks. And then my account was reactivated and I was gated in textbooks. So what I did was I partnered with, over the next 3 years, I partnered with about 3 other people and I sold textbooks on their account because they could. If I would have known you at the time, I would have asked to sell on your account. And so I did that. And then all their accounts eventually got test bought and the books said they were counterfeit because there's enough counterfeit books out there that if the law firm test buys from you 10 times on a book that's highly counterfeited, there's a chance that at least one of the times the book is counterfeit or they don't know. And if they don't know, they're probably going to say it's counterfeit, and it's their word against your word, and you're fucked. And so all my accounts were shut down by 2022 in October. And I'm like, this is a wrap. I no longer am going to run restrictedinventory.com. And then I actually ended up partnering with someone who was approved by the brand and Amazon to sell textbooks. And their warehouse was what's called like EPEG approved, you could say. And so basically the brand said this, they visited their warehouse and said that they have good processes for checking for counterfeits. And so that saved my ass. Shout out to Caleb for throwing the Scout IQ Summit before he sold Scout IQ. I already knew Michael, my partner, but that kind of like, I like literally went to Scout IQ Summit and like I cried in front of everyone. There's a video out there where like I'm like, guys, restricted inventory is done, and I cried. And then I was an idiot because I ended up partnering with Michael, and now it's still alive to this day. So it's actually a much more legitimate business now because all the books go to a warehouse where they check to see if they're counterfeit, and then they're sold Amazon FBA. Anyway, so all that happened, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna continue selling on Amazon because I still had my account. All the other accounts were shut down, but my account was still active. And so then I'm selling wholesale product this summer. And hold on one second, let me plug in my laptop.
Yeah.
So I go to Puerto Rico with one of my best friends, Taylor Jones, and we start doing wholesale together, and I get up to 25,000 profit months just with wholesale. And then they shut my account down for the same thing. And it wasn't anything to do with the wholesale product I was selling. It was because of the book issue. I sold like 10 books on this account, and they said Avery Martin is selling books on an Amazon account, therefore they're probably fake. And they shut me down. There's like 3 reasons why I'm permanently banned from Amazon now. I still sell on Amazon. I got other accounts. Ironically, they shut me down for multiple account policy violation. So that was like, that's the main reason. So like, you're not supposed to have multiple accounts. And even if you manage, like I logged into all the accounts on one device. So don't do that, guys.
Yeah.
Bad idea. So I got multiple account policy violations. So I just created more accounts. That's how I'm selling on Amazon now. So suck it, Amazon. I truly don't think they looked at my case. And that's why I'm so open about it. Cause I think if they did, they would realize like, I literally paid the law firm. I settled with them. So like I admitted fault, and I apologized for selling the counterfeit books because I did, on accident. And I paid off the law firm. And so Amazon's looking at me as like a scammer because I logged in on all the same devices. Then there's a counterfeit book issue. So that could be something else, but I really don't think it's that. I think it's more of the multiple account policy violation. And I was traveling. I lived in Colombia for 6 months. I lived in Barcelona for a couple months. And my team in the Philippines has directly logged into my account, all stupid things to do. And they just see my account being logged in from all over the world. And I think that they think I'm just like some scammer that is finagling the system with so many multiple accounts. And so I don't even try to deal with it now. It's just like my accounts are done. I'm still an Amazon seller. Like Amazon should be paying me for the shit I do for them. Like I throw an Amazon conference every year. I do this podcast. I get so many people to sell on Amazon, but I'm banned for life. And I think if I had sat down with the executive and told them my story, I think they would give me my accounts back. And I just think it's like, I think I have such a hard mark on Amazon with my name. I think that they just think I'm like an overseas counterfeiter, and it's not even, I've appealed 100 times and they're just not listening to me. And I think there's such a hard mark on my account that I'm not ever, and I think there's accounts out there they connected me to that also sold fake books that are not my accounts. And so I think I'm connected to a bunch of accounts that aren't even mine that they think are mine. And so it's a complicated issue, but that's what's happened to me over the last few years.
Gosh, that's a headache. I can't imagine. Like, luckily, I mean, you've got restricted inventory up though. Like,
it's up and running now. And
Bookstores are great software. I see that continuing to be successful. So,
and I'm still selling on Amazon too. Like,
right.
I'll probably make 5,000 profit this month selling on Amazon, and I'll be back up to bigger numbers soon. But like I partner with other Amazon sellers and I keep it running. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, you've still found a way to keep it going, and you've got this podcast going. Like, that's awesome. The community on GoToLister seems pretty cool. I've been, typing some answers to questions and stuff that I just see pop up a couple times a day.
It's so cool that you're in the community because like I don't know many people who have been. There's a few people I know who have been in for a long time, but I literally like when I met you, I'm like, this guy's like way ahead of me, and just to see you still in it is like really cool.
And I went to like super part-time. I mean, I think my sales are like, I'm up 1,100% from what I did last year in November. So like I did very little. And just coming back into it, like even with all the changes, people are always like, oh, the fee changes, the sky's falling. And it's just not true. Like there's still opportunities out there. And, I'm coming into a very saturated book market. And I mean, I know what I'm doing, so I can find the good stuff quick. But
what would you say are the main differences from like 2018 to now selling books on Amazon?
Man, I used to send in like, if I could make $2 profit on a 3.5 million ranked book, it was sent in, because when I started, they didn't even have long-term storage fees if you only had a quantity of one ASIN. So you could have anything just sitting there. And, back then it was like a penny a month.
That's crazy. That was like so favored for booksellers.
Yeah. I think I had like 12,000 books at one point, and it was just me, my wife, and we had one person listing for us. Like that was, and we could maintain an inventory of that. Now we worked like crazy, but it was very easy. You could sell through rate didn't really matter, because all I was looking for is, will this sell in 2 years? Like yes or no.
Yeah.
So that's a huge difference. And the number of sellers, there's a lot of people doing this now, or, a lot. There've always been sellers, but there's a lot more people out there scanning. So it's not as easy to just walk into a Goodwill. Like a lot of Goodwills sell themselves online. So you've got to be a little more, thrifty with how you find stuff.
How have you noticed a difference at McKay's, like the people scanning? Do you still see the same people from 5 years ago? Are they still there?
Some of them. Yeah. Some of them. And there's maybe like 2 people that I used to see all the time that are still doing it. And, the other 10 to 12 are newer people that have done it in the, last couple of years. So, but they fall off too. I've noticed where I see them and then they stop. So, you definitely got to stick with it to be successful. I've heard you preach all the time, like scan all the books. Yeah, I would definitely say do that, because you're also going to learn, at some point you can stop scanning, James Patterson's old books, like the old fiction, like you'll start to be able to save your time, but you have to put the work in first to learn what you're doing.
Dude, I loved just going to McKay's, and then like on my most mindless days, because it is kind of exhausting, like looking at your phone and like doing the profit math and everything. Yeah. My favorite thing to do was I would just turn my triggers real low so everything gets beeped, and then I would literally just scan. I don't think I ever scanned one whole section, but I would start at the beginning and I would try to make my way as far as possible, because those sections are huge.
They have a lot of books.
Yeah, I would scan like 5,000 books a day. And that was my favorite thing, was just put a podcast on and just mindlessly scan. Like, I know I'm missing probably some books that I could if I was looking at my phone, but just like the mental exhaustion from like looking at your phone all day just wore me out. So I would just like, if it dinged profitable, I would look at the price. Oh, $5. Oh, it's $10 profit. I would make sure the stats look good, throw it in the cart,
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, that's why, honestly, like that's why I stopped doing this, is like I was working 80 hours a week. Like I was doing too much, and I got burnt out, and I was just like, I got to step back from this. I've heard you mention before you're a Christian. I wasn't, but I am now. About 2 years ago, completely changed my life, my wife's life. It's been the fulfillment and excitement that I always needed. Like, I did $500,000 in sales. You'd think I'd be like, wow, that's awesome, let's keep going. But I just didn't care. It was like, okay, I just worked a lot, and I have these numbers, but I don't know, there was a hole in my life. So now that that's filled, sky's the limit. I'm going to use the book cash flow, start getting into something else.
What are you thinking about getting into?
Man, there's always like wholesale. There's,
Yep.
I've heard a lot of your guests, are into wholesale and
Online arbitrage too.
online arbitrage. Yeah, I've done it with books. There's a couple books. And tip for all you guys watching: if you scan a book and it looks awful, but then you find out there's a better listing for that book. Like I've got this one book. I can't give it away because it's like I pay $20 for this thing all the time on a listing that's bogus.
Yeah.
And the real listing is $115.
Wow.
And it's got 100,000 rank. So I can literally just sell as many of these as I can buy. So if you scan something and it doesn't show up as good, but like I used the photo app because the picture was like sideways and I was like, that's a crappy photo. Like, let me see if there's anything else. It's like, wow, this is big money. So the barcode is actually attached to the wrong listing and it's under an ASIN. So, there's tons of opportunities. If you start books and you notice stuff like that, definitely like screenshot that and go look, see if you can start doing some online arbitrage.
Have you heard of Victor Galejos?
Oh no.
He did $500,000 in Christmas book flips last year. What about Joji Davenport?
Oh, no, I did see that with the seasonal books. Okay, I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, I've seen Joji. I mean, there's so many opportunities. That's what I was beginning to do with my extra cash, because it's like, I have tens of thousands of dollars just sitting around. I need to spend it somehow. I even bought an $8,000 disc repair machine where you can just throw 50 on there and they'll just clean them. Yeah, repair them. And man, I haven't even used that thing in a couple of years. I need to fire it up.
I bought one of those, the Echo Pro. I bought.
Yeah.
And dude, I did so many stupid things when I started my business. I made it so complicated. I hired 5 listers to list items for me for restricted inventory because people were sending books to our location. So I had 5 different addresses for them to send books to. We would rotate what address it went to based on how much volume each lister was doing. We had 1 in Vegas. We had 2 in Nashville, 2 in Florida. It was the stupidest thing I've ever done. Why would I complicate my life so much? Like now when I do business, I'm like, what's this most simple thing I can do? Man. And back then it was like, what's the most complex shit I can do? And I remember I bought one of those machines, the Echo Pro, and I was like, oh, fuck, it can only be at 1 location. So I had to choose the lister to do CDs. And, but dude, I've sold probably like a lot of CDs. I want to say like maybe 50,000, if not more. And almost all of them we've not cleaned. Yeah. And we haven't gotten any complaints that have done anything to our account. We've gotten no counterfeit complaints and no, I'm sure we've gotten scratch complaints, but nothing that's significantly affected my account health. And my feedback on that account was it wasn't great. It was 93%, but that never affected our buy box or anything like that.
That's the main thing. It's the buy box eligibility. I see some, for anybody who's just starting out, be careful what you're sending in. Don't send in new books, even if you think it's new. If you get too bad feedback starting out, it's going to crush you because it is, I get 1 feedback every 300 orders or something. You don't get many, so you've really got to make them count when you get them, because people leave you bad feedback. And if you start losing your buy box eligibility, that will hurt. Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Let me know if you can hear me now.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I was saying, especially when starting out, that's super important. But this is definitely against the Amazon policy. So this is probably why I'm banned forever. But I was selling chlorine in 2021 on, this is exactly what they don't want you to do. I was selling them on multiple accounts. And yeah, this is 100%. Never do this, guys. But it was 3 different accounts. And I realized I would get more buy box if I sold on 3 accounts. And so that's what I was doing. And plus they were holding my account balance on one of them. So I was like, let me sell on my other 2 accounts. And, but what I learned from that was sometimes I would buy box on my account that had 73% feedback, terrible feedback. And I would buy box over my accounts that had 90% plus. And so, don't look at, I think what Amazon cares about the most is what category are you selling And for that category, how many returns do you have? I think if I was running Amazon, that's all I would care about. So has this seller sold the category before? And on average, when they sell that category, how many returns do they get? Which probably correlates with negative feedback, but it doesn't have to. And so like if one seller gets a ton of refunds, I'm not going to give him buy box as much as if somebody that doesn't. And as Amazon, I don't care about the feedback from the customer. I care about our customers returning the product or not. So that's what I learned in 2021. We would buy box on an account that had 73% feedback.
That's really interesting. Yeah. So yeah, just like you said, like, but the buy box is key because people aren't clicking into it and looking at your feedback like 99% of the time. They don't care.
Yeah. What are you doing for repricing?
I use Reprice It.
Nice.
Because I used to have a lister, I have it kind of, man, it took me like 100+ hours to find the way I wanted it programmed in a system. So, you know, I didn't want the listers like necessarily knowing what that's worth either. So I would have like different categories that they would price it at default. And then, you know, my repricer would grab that certain price and mess with it a certain way. It kind of like a trickle down waterfall effect where there was like stop gaps to prevent things from underselling too much. But, you know, when you're doing volume though, like you're going to break even or lose a couple bucks on stuff sometimes. Like it's okay, but it's the system that matters in the process.
What are you doing now for like removing old inventory?
So I've been messing around with the liquidations. Like, I don't know how that works necessarily, or if it's something I know I can, you know, trade back into McKay and they'll give me money for it. But I have like my sell-through rate's pretty crazy. It's like between 30 and 40% every month. And I send in I just sent in like 2 7 million ranked books. Like, I don't care if it's the right book. You know how that works. So
what kind of profit on those 7 million ranks?
Man, if it's something that's been out of stock for 2 years, I'll sell a $25 book because there's evidence that it sells very quickly when it's in stock. So I don't worry so much about the profit as much as I know I'm going to sell it before I have it too long.
Have you heard of Keep a Product Finder?
Keep a Product Finder?
Yeah, it's like it's a part of Keepa, but basically you can set parameters. So like, I think you could set the parameter and it's got to be between, you could definitely do this. It's got to be between like 6 and 8 million sales rank. And you could probably take the stock count down to 0. And it's going to filter all books that meet that criteria. And so if you had a bunch of books that, and what would be really cool is if you might be able to do this, if you could filter the historical data. So like 3 years ago, the sales rank was less than 1 million, because then it would only show you books that used to sell. Now they have a high sales rank and they're out of stock. Then you can look on eBay for those books and basically, you know, hop on the exact type of listing you're talking about.
Yeah, I love eBay to Amazon flips. They can be great. Also, like book sets, you know, a lot of people don't know about book sets. And, you know, Babysitter's Club, right? A kid's book set, crazy popular. You don't have to have like all 120 books to sell it. Like there's 1 through 12. And I think the FBA price on that right now is like $60. And it's got a 20,000 rank. Like, it'll sell the day it gets there.
Yeah. Did you ever build highlight sets from McKay's?
Oh yeah, man. When I used to have warehouse space, I had maybe 300 or 400 different like working sets from stuff that I would just get from, you know, leftovers at library sales. It's like, you know, just junk stuff that you could monetize in huge ways if you just had the set. Yeah, I used to do thousands and thousands of dollars of sets every month.
Yeah.
It's awesome. The Twilight sets.
They would charge like 5 cents per Twilight book.
I know. It's like a quarter and it's like a $40 sale. It's like, sweet. I'll wrap it up and send it.
Yeah, that was amazing. I used to always go and I would just buy as many as possible. It was hard to get the little skinny one. The 5th book was like the hardest one to find.
That's how it is with every set, man. Like a lot of you guys probably don't even know, like the set Goosebumps, like that's been hugely popular, but book 60, 61, and 62 are really rare, all worth over $40 each, just that book.
Wow.
You know, there's a lot of stuff like that where certain books in the set are really tough to get. But
What other sets do you know off the top of your head?
you remember Animorphs? Do you know Animorphs? Like a lot of these kid sets. See, I'm a 90s kid, and Animorphs was like at every Scholastic, you know, library book sale that I had growing up.
Yeah.
That full set is like 60-ish books, maybe. And it's like $500 maybe, FBA. I need one for it. Still looking for it. But
What about, do you ever sell like a Hardy Boys set?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hundreds of dollars. They're great.
There's probably tons of ASINs for like different portions of the set, right?
Yep. That's a great way to do it if you don't want to like just maintain crazy amounts of space. Like, you know, I had like 1,500, 2,000 square feet of warehouse space. So I had plenty of room to just like throw that stuff on a shelf.
Were you doing bulk officially? Like, were you buying pallets?
No, we were basically just hand picking stuff. Outside of, you know, I'd hear of a bookstore closing or, you know, an opportunity like that. That was the only bulk I was doing. I always wanted to try it.
Local pickups from people?
Never messed with that too much.
So where were you getting most of your books for the warehouse?
I was getting them at McKay's. I would drive. Okay, so, you know, there's McKay's in Nashville, Chattanooga, Knoxville, Winston-Salem, Greenville.
Greensboro.
Or Greensboro, that's it, yeah. So I would, you know, hit the Nashville store all the time. And my trade credit was pennies on the dollar. Like, I don't pay anything. They're duds. They're, you know, stuff I've bought for very cheap. So anything I buy in the store, I can buy a book $10 in the store. And if I'm profiting 15 on it, I'm actually profiting way more than that $5 margin because I'm paying next to nothing for my trade. Yeah. So it really just opens up opportunities to load up massive amounts of inventory. And so I would go to Chattanooga and
where were you getting the books to McKay's?
What's that?
Where were you getting the?
Yeah. I also, back then I had a partnership with a thrift store too. I got backstage access to their stuff. Used to buy just stupid amounts. It was in Franklin, so there's a lot of money in Franklin. There was really nice stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, the library sale leftovers, you know, that stuff is great trade.
Yeah. I think you were telling me about, was it the Brentwood library sale that you can like, I maybe it wasn't you, but somebody was like, Brentwood library sale last day. You can buy like a box or a bag for $1.
Yeah, bag sales. That's another great way to do it. Every library I've ever been to will do that on the last day or the last couple hours that they're open. And man, if you find a bag full of books that you're paying $1 for, and you know that you're going to get 20 in credit for it, that's just, you're there. Might as well monetize that too. You know, just roll it into the machine.
Did you ever sell McKay's credit or buy McKay's credit?
I bought so much from them. I never sold it. I spent it all the time.
Yeah. Right.
But I know people that would sell it for like, you know, 70, 80% cash value, and there's buyers.
Yeah. I actually started doing that. We actually just stopped doing that this year.
Oh, really?
One of my listers lives close enough to McKay's that he doesn't list books for me anymore because all the books have to go to Texas to the EPEG approved Amazon warehouse. Sure. But before, she was prepping everything. So if there was a book that was a dud or wasn't good or for whatever reason wasn't profitable, we would just take in McKay's. And then we would stack the trade credit up and we would sell it to somebody who lived in North Carolina. We would sell it for 65 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, it all depends on what you're paying for it. That's still 15% more than you would have got cash. So that's awesome. Yeah. Do
you do CDs or DVDs at all?
Okay, so I've never done DVDs. Like it's so easy to get approved for DVDs now. I'm gonna get approved. I was gated in DVDs. I started like 6 months when they started gating people, you know, automatically. So I missed out on that. But CDs, I've sold thousands and thousands of CDs. I don't spend much time looking for them anymore though, just because I'm just trying to find books. I know books. I can try to put out like at least 300 a week just to get my account back, stacked with inventory. So that's what my focus is right now. But I've sold CDs for hundreds of dollars. There's incredible stuff out there.
Mm-hmm. What kind of sourcing methods are you using now for the 300 to get the 300?
Yeah. So, there are thrift stores in the area that are they're good, so I'll check, and it's the mom and pop stores. I don't mess with Goodwill because Goodwill of Middle Tennessee sells online. You can get some stuff at the outlet stores, but those are pretty competitive. And
I live right next to the outlet right here.
No way.
I live in Brentwood, so I drive past the outlet to
over in Berry Hill, that one.
Berry Hill, yep. That's it.
Yeah. So there's, if you're trying to break into the market, like there's going to be sellers established, and those outlets, at least here in Nashville, work in a way where they bring out all the troughs of books, and then they say, go. And then everybody just starts grabbing stuff. So if you have no idea what you're trying to grab, like you're going to be just sitting there scanning while everybody's filling up, carts full of books that they know are going to be good. So that's a competitive place, but there's books everywhere. Thrift stores. I go to McKay's all the time, even with sellers there. Like you said, like people are lazy and they don't check the non-barcode books. There's so many great non-barcode books.
Did you ever make it? I never was cool with the McKay's workers. Did you ever get in with them?
Nope. I think they are, I don't know for a fact, but I don't think they work with sellers. They try to keep it, kind of politically even.
They seem kind of repulsed, because we just we're trying not to be weird, but it's impossible not to be weird because we're just we want the book so bad that we just have this repulsive energy that we're just looking at them. We're like hawks. Feel it.
I really try to be respectful of the workers. There's some pretty crazy booksellers out there that will be pretty aggressive and ugly to you. And that's just not me. I don't. Did you see my Green Hills Library sale video I posted on YouTube? Yes, with that woman berating you.
The pitching me out. So during that sale, I was helping them unload the books and put it on the shelf. And I remember I don't know if something was off with my energy or what, but I was hey, can I help you put these books on the shelf? And she wasn't talking to me, but she kind of nodded a little bit. And I'm all right, I'm going to fucking help her put these books on the shelf. So I started taking all the books. I'm literally helping her do her job. And she just you could tell she was kind of weird about it because she just felt I was, I don't know, I was trying to take advantage of the situation. And then I scanned the books after I put them on the shelf. But it just goes to show at the first 10, 20 minutes of the library sale, it's a candy store and all these resellers are going crazy. Everyone's grabbing shit. And so she was weirded out by the whole situation of how everyone was just scanning fast, and I was legit trying to help her. And honestly, I didn't really give a shit about getting the books because I was just making a YouTube video showing people how to do it. But she was still kind of and that's how they are at McKay's. Yeah.
There's always that guy that gives everybody a bad taste in their mouth about resellers. I've actually there's this other bookstore kind of up in East Tennessee called Mr. K's Books. It's not McKay's.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's Mr. K's, but same style. It's huge. I went in there and it was the most you could tell there was nobody scanning because I just got hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I think we spent $800. I get up to the front. They find out I'm a reseller. They tell me never come back again.
But they let you check out?
They let me check out. But that's the only time that has ever happened to me. Most libraries and stuff are wow, do you want to come buy more books from us? In the back room? I've worked with the library for a long time, where I get to pre-scan everything. Booksellers that used to go to that one must have been real sad. Because I'd take everything, just boxes and boxes. But it was because I'd help them set up the day before.
How new was that Mr. K's?
What's that?
How new was it?
It had been there for a while. There's another one in North or South Carolina. I can't remember. I was kind of a jerk back then, and I actually went to the other store after they kicked me out of it, and Mr. K was there, and he checked me out. I was real secretive with my scanner, and he checked me out, and I was like, "Hi, you didn't even know it was me," But they're, that's the only time that's ever happened. Most people are very happy that you're there. They don't care.
Well, I mean, look at McKay's. Like, they're like probably the most successful bookstore ever. Maybe. I would think they are. And they love resellers. Like,
they do.
Obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be a jerk. Don't crowd the employees. Just give them space to do their thing. I've gotten so many deals because I'm just, warm and welcoming and happy to just be there and talk to people. Your attitude goes a long way. When I first started, I was super sketched out about what I was doing. I was like, is anybody going to see me scanning these books?
Dude, the first Goodwill, I went to the Goodwill. There used to be one on Charlotte Avenue years ago. This was 2017. And I went into it, and it was the very first time I was using FBA scan, was what Scoutly was called at the time.
Yeah.
Before they copied every fucking thing that Scout IQ did. Oh, by the way, Caleb sat down with the owner. I'm not going to say too much about it, but he sat down with the owner of Scoutly, and they had dinner. But I was using the FBA scan and watched a Reezy Resells video, and my energy must have been so off that day because I got kicked out of the store. The only time I've ever been kicked out of a Goodwill, I was just scanning, and I filled up a whole cart of books that were not profitable. They definitely weren't. It was just because everything was dinging green. I was putting everything green in the cart. I had a full cart of books that weren't going to make me any money, and I got kicked out of the store just because he thought I was like getting one over on them. And that's the only time I've ever been kicked out of a Goodwill, but it was definitely because I felt like I was doing something wrong,
Yeah. You have to just, I'm honest about what I'm doing. I'm not trying to like trick people or one up over them. I'm happy to answer any questions if any of you guys like send me a message on Facebook. Like, happy to help you figure out how to do this. Like, there's a lot of tricks. I know a lot of tricks. Been doing this a long time. But being just open about what you're doing will lead to more opportunities than not talking about it. Like, that's how I got my thrift store deal, right? I was in there with just a huge cart of books the first time, and someone was like, "Oh, you need to come meet our owner. He would love for you to come in the back and check all the books." And I was like, "Sweet."
Yeah.
That's how that works. So personal relationships, like I said, like if we had known each other a little more back in the day, like who knows where that could have led. And, that was my bad for not, doing more about that. I was kind of like done. I was so burnt out at the time.
Right.
There's opportunities. I'm even friends with a lot of the sellers I'm competing with. Like, I see them everywhere.
It can be a positive sum game if you become friends with all of them. Like in the book business, it's a positive sum game. In the online arbitrage business, you can share leads. In the wholesale business, I share suppliers with people. It's like the more you network, the more friends you have. Yes, they're your competition, but they can also be your friends, and like it's a positive sum game if you make it one.
I mean, how many customers does Amazon have in the US? Like 200 plus million?
Yeah.
How many sellers are there? Like, there's way more customers than sellers. There's so many products out there you can, work together and sell and, figure out businesses together. So
100%. So can they message you on Facebook if they got questions?
Yeah, that's cool. I'll get to them when I can. I've got 2 kids and a wife, and I'm busy, but I'll get to them. I check it a couple times a day.
You're in the Go-To Lister support group. I think you're in my Facebook group, Selling Books on Amazon and Online Arbitrage by Romer. Might be in there. You're definitely in the Go-To Lister group. So if anyone's got questions, feel free to reach out to Devin. And I actually got another podcast right now, so I got to run. But dude, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's good to talk to you. See ya.
Yep.